everybody, and welcome. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome commissioners, staff, petitioners, and citizens to the January 14th Mishawaka Plan Commission. Happy New Year, and hopefully everybody's off to a good 2025. We'll start with the introduction of staff. To my right, we have Donna Burkhardt, our administrative planner. Next to Donna, we have Shad Annis, our associate planner. Over on the other side, my left-hand side, we have Krista Hill, senior planner. Derek Spear, our city planner. And in the front row to my left, we have David Bent, our legal counsel, and Ken Prince, our executive director. Donna, would you please call for the roll?
Chris Jamrose. Here. Drew Cash.
Here.
Woody Emmons.
Here.
Sam Cressy.
Here.
Drew Johnson.
Here.
Randy Frost.
Here.
Kathy White Gaddich.
Here.
Mike Portalese.
Here.
Chris Torty.
Here. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to our city planner, Mr. Derek Spear.
The first item is nominations for president.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Chris Torty.
I'll second.
Any additional nominations?
I move that elections
Be closed.
be frozen.
Okay.
Closed, and we need to
Close.
vote.
Yes. All right. Chris Jamrose.
Yes.
Drew Cash.
Yes.
Woody Emmons.
Yes.
Sam Cressy.
Yes.
Drew Johnson.
Yes.
Randy Frost.
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich.
Yes.
Mike Portalese.
Yes.
And now we need nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Woody Emmons, Vice President this year.
I'll second that.
Any additional nominations? Closed, and we need a vote.
Chris Jamrose.
Yes.
Drew Cash.
Yes.
Sam Cressy.
Yes.
Drew Johnson.
Yes.
Randy Frost.
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich.
Yes.
Mike Portalese.
Yes.
Chris Torty.
Yes. Excellent. Over to me now?
Yes.
All right. Hey, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And Woody, thank you for being the backup and all your service that you do for this and, of course, on the council.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. Next, I just want to point out, I'd like to reappoint the staff that we have. We have the best staff. So the people that you see that we announced in introduction of staff today, just great people that do all the background work that prepare us for these meetings and do all the things that they need to do. But I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, I'd like to appoint the staff for another year. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we're very grateful for the staff that supports us. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have rules of procedure. All the speaking is done at the podium. And if you would please come up and leave your name and address very clearly so Donna can take that into the record, that would be great. I don't think we have anybody attending online, but if we do, I ask for your patience. Sometimes that gets a little funny. So up here we have our rules. We have first a presentation by the petitioner. For each item, we will ask those participating in the room to speak first, followed by those participating online. Then we'll hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the request, and then those who wish to speak against the request. And if you have general questions, I would come up during against the request. We'll accumulate all of our questions. We'll have a right of rebuttal by the petitioner. We'll see if there's any additional information. We'll have a commission discussion, and then a commission vote. The previous month's minutes, December, were distributed to the commissioners. Were there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 And those minutes are approved. Is there any items on the agenda tonight that would be a conflict of interest to anybody on the Plan Commission? Nope. Okay. This brings us to the first item. No, I think that's okay. Good question, though. Okay, public hearing. We have petition 24-13. This is a rezone, so this will go to the council. Our recommendation will be attached. A request submitted by Advanced RE Holding LLC requesting to rezone 611 South Main Street from C1 General Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential. Hi, come on up. We get you again.
My name is Christine Uris. I'm here on behalf of Advanced RE Holdings LLC regarding the rezoning of the real estate located at 611 South Main Street. Currently, the real estate is classified as a C1, and it was recently purchased. Due to the vacancy, we've been asked to rezone the property to an R1.
Before we get into questions, I would ask for our executive director to come up and give the same overview that you gave at the previous meeting to add some clarity behind this.
Mr. President, members of the commission, Ken Prince, Director of Planning and Community Development. So this is an interesting property in that it was developed probably before we had any zoning in the city. So it's a commercial property located in a residential neighborhood. It's currently zoned C1 commercial. My understanding is the previous owner or occupant used it for maybe remodeling a car, kind of their play building, if you will. It's been vacant for quite some time. So when we were approached about the reuse of the property, our concern was how do we protect the neighborhood long-term from a C1, which, as you all know, contains many uses that could go into the neighborhood. And our primary concern was parking associated. This has no parking associated with it, other than, I guess, you could park in the garage that's located off the alley. So how do you control that commercial business from going in it? And so we recommended down zoning the property to R1 single-family residential, which kind of matches the surrounding neighborhood, but also requesting that they file a use variance to allow the commercial business at the same time. And as you know, use variances allow conditions to be placed on the property, and developmental variances do not allow conditions to be placed on the property. So if they merely left it C1 general commercial and applied for developmental variances, those variances would carry through to other businesses. Whereas the use variance, you have specific conditions that limit what the use is of the property, as well as other conditions regarding, like, the number of employees. We limited it to 2 because obviously if you had, and we hope they grow and we hope they're very successful, but ultimately if they grow and they outsize the building in the neighborhood, we want them to move somewhere else because we don't have the parking, we don't have that in the neighborhood to serve based on of how the building was constructed. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but that is the logic behind both downzoning the property to R1, and then the BZA earlier made a favorable recommendation to the Common Council on the use variance with the conditions that staff had recommended. So that's where we're at.
Thank you for that additional information. Questions?
Yeah.
Yes. Woody?
Mr. Prince, by rezoning it from C1 to R1, and that the building is in horrible shape, and that, what specifications are we going to be able to put on that, the ownership of that building, to bring it up to certain standards, or what?
So they will have to have it inspected as part of their occupancy. It's been vacant. So as they would remodel and occupy it, they would have to have it inspected by the building department. But that's for basic code issues, not for appearance issues.
Okay, so they don't have to do anything to the outside?
No, not, I mean, other than, I mean, they have issues, I believe, from a code perspective that they'll need to address as part of it. But no, our concern was really regarding the parking and the use of the building. And we believe that the reason that they haven't undertaken improvements, and it's really a question for the applicant, is because they want to have the approvals before they spend money to remodel and to occupy the building. So it's kind of a chicken or the egg of what comes first. But you should ask that question to the applicant.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if there was any stipulations that the city was putting on.
Only regarding the use and then the, obviously the number of employees, so.
Mr. Prince, I understand the use variance was approved earlier this evening, but can you clarify, does that run with the business owner or the property owner?
property. It runs with the property.
So if it was sold, the use variance would then be expired, or it would?
As I explained to the BZA earlier, it's limited to how it's written, so an e-commerce business could go back into this property, limited to 2 employees. The same conditions would apply to the new business as well.
Okay. And that runs with the property if it was sold?
That's correct.
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. Any other
I just have
questions?
another
Yep,
question.
yep, go ahead. Woody?
If the proposed tenants, so to speak, get the rezoning and they move out, now, somebody else come in and they have to be the same requirements as,
They would have to meet the same requirements that was identified in the use variance. But what I would imagine, Woody, is if we had like, let's say an accountant that came in and they had 3 employees instead of 2 employees, the reason we wanted the use variance is because they have to come in and ask, and that goes before the council, and then you get to consider it again. It's not an automatic approval. So there are other uses that we deem that would be appropriate should they vacate the building, but ultimately, to protect the neighborhood, we thought they should have to come back and ask for that, and it shouldn't be granted by right. Same with their expansion. We limited it to 2 employees. If they grow to 3 employees, we really expect them to come back and ask and address, how are we going to deal with the parking? How is it working with the neighborhood? It gives us that other chance to address it.
well, like I say, my concern is that we had this afternoon, we have another building.
Exactly.
And we want the neighborhood to be upgraded, not degraded, and that.
Right,
and-
but-
And right now, this one here is a questionable in the area.
Right.
And that, so, that's what I'm looking out after.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll turn it back over to Ms. Uritz. And is there any other follow-up information? You might have a couple questions here, but
As far as the aesthetics that will be improved.
can you tell us a little bit about what you plan to do with the building itself and the property?
So as far as like cosmetic things?
Yeah.
So siding, a new roof is going on. He's looking at putting in some windows in the future, those kind of things. I believe it's going to be like a vinyl siding for aesthetics to match more of like a residential look versus a commercial look.
How many employees for the business?
Currently, it's just the owner, but then he's looking to grow. The requirement is 2 employees as far as he's allowed to grow.
And as we discussed in the earlier meeting, a little bit about any traffic, it would be only small parcel delivery types of
Correct.
things,
Correct.
but no clients or anything like that.
It's not anticipated, no, or like installers for like security systems, sales type coming and going, but not anything permanent at the location.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah.
Woody?
Yes, it's a pretty large building, it goes back.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to side the whole building, or are you going to demolish some of it, or what is your intention?
As far as I know, the whole building will be sided eventually. Right now, the cosmetic is the front that we're mostly concerned about. So we want to get that addressed ASAP, just because it's
Okay, my concern is
not
that
very aesthetically
let the whole
pleasing.
building be brought up to the standard. I mean, you say the front, then you don't know about the side of the building or the back of the building, or both sides of the building. I mean,
Oh, no, eventually it will be done, but like the immediate need is the sides and the front, because there's some water issues
Okay,
that
so
we're
you're
trying
gonna
to.
do the front and both sides, and then the back
Yes,
a little bit later?
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope it's soon.
Any other
And
questions?
I wish you well on it,
Yep.
but like I say,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
you.
said I wish you well on your
Thank you.
endeavors.
Thank you.
But like I say, I'm concerned with the condition of that building right now. It's an eyesore. And like I say, it's in my district. And, you know, we're trying to upgrade the buildings and also the residentials in, not only in my district, but all over the city. And so when people buy these buildings, eye kind of pressed to see when they're going to do it, how long it's going to take to get the building up to snuff, and also meet the code and that, and be a proud part of the community.
Understandable.
So do you have an idea of how long that's going to be to take that and get it done? Roughly?
Hi, my name is Victor Beek, the owner of the property. Right now, we don't know. The side of the building looks pretty decent, just needs power wash and some pieces that are damaged, replaced. The back side of the property and the side next to the property, next to it, the home, we don't have access to right now because it's on, I have to access their property to get to it. So that was never done with siding in the past. So I have to ask for permission to go on those properties to be able to access that, to be able to do anything on those sides.
You mean your property line?
Yeah, that's right on the property line. So there's no, I have no property access on there. My building, that building ends right on the property lines on both sides. So I'd have to ask for permission to get on the back side and the side with the house on it there.
Have you talked to the people on each?
I have not. Obviously, when I first bought the property, we had issues with parking. They used to park in front of the building. They have like 5 cars for the neighbors that rent there. Some kind of transportation company they use out of that building, out of that house. So they've been parking in front of the building when I got there, which is why the siding is probably the way it is now, because I think they've been hitting the siding when they pull in. So I've stopped that at least. So now they just park along the street there. So I have not talked to them. They're not the owners of the property. They just rent the property. So I'd have to talk to probably the owner of the property, which is some kind of a development company, I believe, right? Yeah.
Well, my concern is that, you purchased the property, and we'd like to see it taken care of and updated and that, and not be a blight.
Correct, yeah, I don't know what code deficiencies is on the property as far as being up to code. The inside just needs some cosmetic stuff, really, just some paint, carpet, new fixtures and whatnot, but the outside looks worse than it really is. I do have a guy coming out tomorrow to look at a new roof on it and some siding in the front at least. But like I said, the one side looks okay for now. Eventually, probably maybe the summertime or next summer, we would do the rest of the siding around the property and try to get all the same to match. Obviously, we're trying to find the right aesthetics for it because it is a commercial building in a residential neighborhood, and they want us to make it residential. So how do you take a commercial building that looks like a commercial building and make it into a residential property? It's kind of impossible
Well, one
to
thing
do
is
that.
making the exterior look residential.
Correct. So that's and when I bought the property, I knew we had some zoning issues with it later on. I didn't realize it came with some restrictions later on with the property that we're dealing with at this point. So obviously, we've got some issues with it. Obviously, limiting this to employees would be tough because we bought the property to grow. To grow the business. So trying to figure out how we're going to do that and dump a bunch of money in the property. A new roof is going to cost me like $30,000 for a new roof, just for the roof on it. And not to mention the siding and other things that need to be done to that property.
Basically, it's a flat roof. Are you putting another flat roof on there?
Yes, it's a flat, yeah, we're going to do another flat roof.
Well, I wish you well, and I also wish that you would hurry up and get the aesthetics looking like a residential area than a commercial. Since
Again,
you
I
are
don't-
going to be an R1.
Right. I just don't know how we're going to do that exactly yet. Unless you tear it down and start over, I guess, that's one option, but it's a commercial building. It looks like a commercial building. It's been that way, I believe it was since the 1920s or something. Again, I don't know what the city's going to require us to do as far as bringing it up to code. I don't see, when I checked with the code department, they just said there was no code violations or code issues with the property before I bought it. So I assumed that the building was up to code currently. It just needs some TLC. We'll call it TLC.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Since
Yeah.
it's going to be R1, I'd like to look somewhat like an R1.
Correct, yeah. That's why I'm looking at maybe putting a window in the front to make it a little residential. Maybe a dormer across over the main door coming in so it looks more residential. using vinyl siding on it or around the whole building, those kind of things. But as far as trying to make it into an A-frame roof and all
I'm not
that,
asking
I mean,
that.
it's going to
You
be,
have to update the building. Yeah,
Correct.
The building is not updated,
correct.
and that's what it needs.
Inside-wise, I mean, it's been, somebody, I think, used to live there at one point because they had a hot tub in there and some other things. So they've done some electrical and some plumbing already. That's been updated over the years. So really, the inside just needs some paint and some carpet and those kind of things, some new fixtures and whatnot. It's the outside that I think's been let go for a while.
You're right.
And unfortunately, that's the most expensive part of a building is fixing the outside.
But just like a home,
Right. So, and that was one of the concerns I had when we bought it, was to make sure that there was no code infractions with it now, so we knew that we don't have to fix anything immediately with it. But then the whole residential thing came up after the fact or during the process. And again, trying to figure out how to make it from a commercial building to a residential is tough. You know, our use with it is pretty simple. We just want to use it for, we're going to do some, we have an online business. We do some shipping and receiving, and we do a security company. So we do installs. So the idea was 2 on-site employees at a time. Any installers or salesmen that would come and go. They would not stay there. You know, I understand there is a parking issue. I park in the garage, so that takes care of one vehicle. And there is some parking behind that red vehicle there farther down. And then if the neighbors ever moved out, that gets rid of 5 cars in front of their building. That would take up a lot of that space as well, because they've got 5 cars for that one rental property. But there is some more parking behind there we could use on street parking still, or even on 8th Street. There is some parking available on 8th Street as well we can use.
So can you
So-
expand into the parking a little bit more? So you said you could park in the garage, so there is a garage there.
Yeah, there's a huge garage in the back of that property, correct.
And how many cars can fit in there?
I could probably get 2 or 3 in there.
Okay, and so you expect when your employees that operate in that building, they would be able to use that
Correct.
parking?
Yeah.
So
we
it's
would-
not filled, it's not going to be filled with stuff, it's going to be
No.
available for them to park at?
That's correct.
And then when you get your deliveries each day, those would be out of the front?
Correct, out of the front door. And the exit door on the alley side would just be an emergency exit at that point, just in case something happened, we had to get out.
And outside of the garage, is there any parking? I meant to
No.
drive by this, but I
No,
didn't
there's
see
not.
this. There's not. So
It goes right out to the alley.
So it's either 2 cars in the garage or.
Correct.
And that's it? For
Correct.
on premise?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for clarifying
Mm-hmm.
that. Any other questions?
No, I just appreciate you making the investment in our community. You know, the buildings empty like this, it's great to have somebody come in and want to make it look better
Yeah.
and make it viable again, so really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Beek. I appreciate you
and thank
coming
you
up.
both. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of petition 24-13? Is there anyone wish to speak in opposition? Any additional information?
Further information.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing, and obviously, this is going to go to the council, so for recommendation. Woody, I'm glad you were on, so all the nuances of this, you're able to take to the council. If there's no other discussion, I'll take a motion on petition 24-13.
Motion, we send this to the council with a favorable recommendation?
We have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose?
Yes.
Drew Cash?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
Yes.
Sam Cressy?
Yes.
Drew Johnson?
Yes.
Randy Frost?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich?
Yes.
Mike Portalese?
Yes.
Chris Torty?
Yes, and petition 24-13 will move to the council with a favorable rating. Thank you. Thank you for the presentations. Thank you for being at both meetings. I appreciate spending time with you tonight. Brings us to the next one, replat 24-06. This is tabled from December 10th, and the petitioner requests to table indefinitely. All those in favor of tabling this indefinitely, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And replat 24-06 is tabled indefinitely. Next item, replat 24-07, a request submitted by Cap Storage Granger LLC seeking approval of the 1-lot Centennial American Minor Subdivision first replat. Hi.
Good evening, Angela Smith from Dan Turner and Associates with offices located at 1643 Commerce Drive in South Bend. We're before you this evening to ask for the replat for just Lot 2 of the previous subdivision. While they were working on the site and developing the sidewalk and handicap accessible ramps along the right-of-way here, the state asked for additional right-of-way to improve that area. So it's actually like 3 foot more into the property and then more of the kind of corner there. So this replat is simply to allow for that additional right-of-way to be dedicated for those improvements. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Do you know, is it for a right turn lane, or do you have any idea what NDOT needs the right-of-way for?
I
Just
don't
curious.
even know what the additional right-of-way was for, other than the handicap ramp, but the corner did not fit within the design parameters. I think they are thinking eventually there may be some kind of turns, but I don't know if that's incorporated into this or if there's other plans.
Okay,
We just do what the state tells us.
right.
Question?
I was going to say, it's not really a question. That was a requirement from site plan from engineering,
Okay,
and a turn lane was required.
okay, so that's what it's related to.
Got
Thank
it.
you,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you for adding that. Any other questions for Ms. Smith? Nope. All right, thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of replat 24-07? Is there anybody in opposition to replat 24-07? Is there any additional information, Mr. City Planner? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing, and I'll call for a motion on 24-07.
I make a motion to approve replat 2407.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Woody was the second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose?
Yes.
Drew Cash?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
Yes.
Sam Cressy?
Yes.
Drew Johnson?
Yes.
Randy Frost?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich?
Yes.
Mike Porterles?
Yes.
Chris Torty?
Yes, and replat 24-07 passes. Next item, design review 24-12, a request submitted by 120 BS LLC requesting a design review waiver for architectural materials for a Jimmy John's at 415 Bittersweet. Note that this was tabled from the December meeting.
Hi, good evening. I'm Chris with Ancon Construction here representing the owner. This is a local franchisee of a owner of a number of Jimmy John's restaurants. The plan is to build a new standalone Jimmy John's restaurant on the property. The prototype that Inspire Brands that owns Jimmy John's has for new restaurant locations doesn't line up exactly with the requirements for the city as far as the facade and the materials and colors and whatnot. So the owners requested a design waiver for the elevations as you see there on the screen. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Can we get your first and last name?
Yep, Chris Moracle.
Great. Thank you. Questions? Woody?
Yeah, I noticed that you're changing the design quite a bit from what Jimmy John's perceives right now.
From like existing Jimmy John's you've seen around, is that what you're referring to?
Right.
So, yeah, so this is the new, actually for this franchisee owner, this is the first location that will be this new prototype. So they just, Inspire Brands just came out with this in the last year or so. I can't remember the name of the prototype, but this is new for the brand, you're correct.
Yeah, I mean, they're advertising, a sandwich that they've never done before, at least in this area, I should say.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any exact locations in the area
Yeah.
that follow this prototype.
Yeah, and so you're asking it to have different materials compared to what they've used of having, correct?
As far as I understand, yes. There is a difference as well from, as far as new standalone restaurants versus like a tenant in a strip mall. Obviously, those tend to just be, have a Jimmy John's sign, but be the same, materials and colors as the rest of the strip mall. So this being a standalone restaurant, it's a little bit unique as well in that they have, set prototype requirements for their new standalone restaurants.
Okay, Because what I'm getting at, is you're asking to change the type of exterior, correct? Material.
We're not asking to change anything other than what Jimmy John's brand now advertises as their new prototype. So any new Jimmy John's location that's going to be built, you know,
It just
as a
says
standalone restaurant
Yeah,
would,
it just says here, a design review waiver, request review waiver for architectural materials. So that's what I'm asking.
Yep, so my understanding is the materials here, the balance of metal panels versus masonry versus, you know, the different materials used on the facade and the percentages of them don't line up with the standards that the ordinance, the city ordinance allows for. So
So
that's
if
what we're asking for a waiver from.
If I understand correctly, you're changing the branding is what you're doing, which is really not what you're coming here for. It's the materials that that branding will be made from. You know, a certain amount of metal, a certain amount of wood, certain amount of this. So the branding really doesn't factor into this a whole lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're not asking to change anything. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question here,
Well,
but
you're saying prototype, but to me, I think you're changing the presentation of the building, which is the branding from other Jimmy John's in the area, which really is insignificant to what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the materials you're going to use to do it.
Right, the other Jimmy John's, the other design could fall into the same scenario.
So the fact it doesn't look like other Jimmy John's
Say so on any.
is insignificant to me.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, in that area, you know, for as much commercial as there is with the Everwise Credit Union and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Martin's across the street, I don't think this is going to be a sore thumb by any means, so I personally have no problem with it.
It's metal panels, I mean, it's fiber content we're talking about versus, I agree with you.
I'm sorry?
I agree with you. I mean, we're talking about the content of the materials.
Correct.
You know, metal panels and fiber content on them, so, yeah.
Right.
Any other questions?
I
Thank-
have one
yep,
just for
Woody,
Mr. Prince.
sure.
Why?
Or, he's asking a question, Executive Director.
Yeah,
First,
I'm
I'd like
just
to
curious.
respond, I need to change the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm just curious,
Yes.
what the prototype that they're printing up here is, you know, as you walk in on the front, they have a big sub sandwich or whatever it is, I can't identify it, whatever it is. Does that meet code? Can they do that?
We actually want to encourage murals like that, Woody. I think really what we're reviewing tonight is the architectural materials, and
Yeah.
predominantly, it's the metal panels. And so when we wrote the design review ordinance back in the late 90s, it was really, we didn't want, and we used like the Dollar General on Merrifield as an example of those ribbed metal panels looking like an industrial building. But now people are using these metal panels more as decorative, and I use Smoothie King as an example. They use them as a decorative material rather than that industrial, and I don't want to call it cheap, but it was just that industrial grade. These are a commercial building, this is the standard, the modern standard, and we need to update our ordinance to include them. So the mural itself, you know, like it or don't like it, we like that vibrancy and that art, and that is I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not, but really what you're reviewing tonight are the metal panels. That's the
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
predominantly,
I saw that, you know, the subs, whatever it is that gonna be metal panels, solid, and that just?
I believe that
design
section
on
is a
that?
metal panel that is then veneered with that image on it. Okay.
I didn't hear what he said.
Gray fiber cement panels.
Okay, thank you. Just a clarification on that, because I've not seen anything like that around town here, of a mural like that,
Right.
and I just wondered whether that was,
Yeah, so outside of the downtown, murals like that, really, if you look at, in Town and Country, it's old, for example, but Town and Country did the entire side of the building that way. We don't have a restriction on that currently of what people can do and can't do. So,
thank you, I just wanted clarification on that.
sure.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that perspective of, yeah, the ordinance need to be changed, maybe it's a little outdated, but what I like about this is we can come in and hear about it and see what they're doing. So
Sure.
even though the ordinance is a little outdated, this format works great, where we can come in and actually see what they're doing and what those changes are and being able to vote on it.
Right,
So-
and the standard ordinance, just to remind everyone, does allow for metal panels, but only a third of the face is
Right.
allowed for metal panels. So we're really talking about percentages. We're not talking about whether metal panels should be used or shouldn't be used.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other questions on this? Nope, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
yep,
Appreciate it.
thank
I
you.
just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of Design Review 24-12? Hearing none, is there anybody in opposition to Design Review 24-12? Is there any additional information, Mr. City Planner?
None.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll take a motion on 24-12.
I motion to approve Design Review 24-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Who won the second?
It was a tie.
It was a tie, so
Give it to him.
tie goes to Drew, is what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so we have a vote, or a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose?
Yes.
Drew Cash?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
Yes.
Sam Cressy?
Yes.
Drew Johnson?
Yes.
Randy Frost?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage?
Yes.
Mike Portalese?
Yes.
Chris Torty?
Yes, and Design Review 24-12 passes. Is there any old business, Mr. City Planner?
None.
New business?
None.
Privilege of the floor. Anybody wish to speak about any items that are not on the agenda? Don't hear anything? I'll have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Hey, thanks.
It was like 14.